Hello.
Hello, everyone. We're going to wait a couple more minutes just to make sure that everyone makes it the session.
Absolutely.
Okay, so welcome everyone. Welcome to the 2021 BA Animation degree Q&A. This is like a little showcase to give you a bit of a taster of what the graduates of BA Animation have been doing this last year. My name is Alice. I'm a former alumni, and I'm going to be hosting this event with my friends and also alumni, Mariana Leal and Dylan Wilson, who will now talk a bit about etiquettes.
Thanks, Alize. Hey, yeah, I'm Dylan. My pronouns are he, him, and just going over a few things here. So obviously, during this call, please be respectful to our panelists and to each other. We ask that there's no nudity, violence, hate speech, anything. It's pretty obvious, just kind of be respectful. We will invite you at the end to be asking some questions to our fantastic animators we have here today. You can ask them in the chat, but for today, we're just going to be like, before this, we've got some pre-prepared questions. We're going to go over with them. And at the end, we'll get to some of your questions in the meantime. I'll pass to the lovely Mariana now to sort of maybe interview some, introduce.
Thank you, Dylan. Also, I believe that there's the Q&A option at the bottom of your screen where you should paste the questions that we'll get to at the end. For the chat might be blocked for attendees. But we are going to start with a short show reel with the highlights of the whole year to showcase more than the participants that are actually being interviewed today. So you can see a bit of their films, and then you can see the full clips on the graduate show online. That was great. Thank you, Dylan. And now we're going to pass on to the participants so they can say hello and introduce themselves, and so you can see who will be being interviewed today. Should we start with Nadine?
Hi. Hi, my name is Nadine Karapanchev. I specialize in 2D animation.
Hello. Sorry, I just wanted to check if my mic was working.
Oh, yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Hi, my name is Cavell Williams. She, him pronouns, and I specialize in 2D animation.
Hi. Should we pass to Karina? And Yakim.
Hello, I'm Karina.
Hey, I'm Yakim.
Yes.
Amazing. Georgia, and then maybe Thomas.
Hi, I'm Georgia. I also specialize in 2D animation.
Oh, I'm Tommy. I'm here, he, him, they, them, anything's fine, really. I also draw things. This is true of me. It's good to be here.
Wonderful. Mary?
Hiya, I'm Mary. My pronouns are she, her, and I practice in 2D animation. And I'm currently out at the moment, so sorry about the background noise.
It's okay. As long as you don't mind people not hearing your answers, like it will just be noise. Leonie, are you able to talk at the moment? I know you're out and about. I see she's in here, but anyway, this is the amazing Leonie Dubois, but she'll be showing herself later, probably for her interview, as she is traveling at the moment. Yeah, I'll go back to Mariana for the interview first.
And so now we're gonna start with Nadine, and we're gonna have a short clip from their film being showed first, and then we're gonna go on with the interview. Lovely, thank you, Dylan. Hi, Nadine. Lovely film. I don't know if everyone has had the chance to watch it online yet, but you definitely should. A lot of introspective themes and lovely surrealist imagery. Do you want to talk to us a bit about the concept and how it came to you and why you chose to make a film about it?
Yeah. So everything kind of started from, it was kind of heavily influenced by the pandemic, of course. I always liked to work with themes of introspection, self-reflection. I was also always kind of very in touch with my own emotions, and I love kind of psychology and having this psychoanalytic, trying to understand how the human mindset works. Like, to me, it always was something very fascinating. So I knew I was always kind of attracted to surrealism already. But what really started the project, I had a friend last year, and for her graduating piece, she made this, I participated in her project, and basically it consisted in, like, she had this piece of paper and she put some words on it. And my task was to just like describe a place or anywhere that it took me. And so that was a couple months after the pandemic started. And I know that one of my kind of coping mechanisms for this whole pandemic was to kind of repress my emotions. And I kind of, this exercise kind of like allowed me to reconnect with them. And it gave me a little bit of insight of how I was really feeling with this, it's the surrealist situation of having the pandemic and being isolated. That was quite interesting, and some of the images were created during those recordings that I was doing for her project. And for example, one of the scenes with like the corridor, like the deserted corridor, and you have the walls on the sides with like the fingers on top, or like this kind of like the lake scene where there's this pink lake and pink bubbles. And I had these images that popped into my mind. I was like, this is something I really want to animate. So that was the starting point of Soi.
Oh, that's really interesting. So it was kind of influenced by other peers. Yeah. Do you think that you would have chosen different visual imagery and at any other point in time, because I know that in the surrealist movement, everything is very connected to dreams and experiences, and how these then are visualized and interpreted and experienced through the art pieces. So how did the lockdown and being inside, seeing different things, change the type of images that you chose for your film?
This is actually a really good question. I think in terms of like the surrealism aspect, I'm not sure if this is directly linked with how the pandemic influenced it, but in terms of the surrealism, just like the place of a desert is something that is quite common in the field. I think that was actually a quite interesting place if you think about it, because when we think of a desert, it's always something so vacant and empty. And I think a lot of us during pandemic were kind of feeling that vague vacantness, or kind of like this isolation and emptiness. At least for me, that was kind of the case with my own kind of mind in myself. And but what's interesting is that when you have those kind of places, you can basically populate them with anything that's passing. And that kind of, with the pandemic, we had a lot of time wandering in our minds and having a lot of time to just have a think with ourselves. And it was just kind of like a nice playground or a field where I could just put like, I don't know, like this giant eye. I didn't really understand why at first, but I was like, this is something that just seems fitting. And I don't know, I just like this kind of like surrealism, strangeness that it adds to it.
Yeah. And what about the fact that it is a non-verbal film? There's no speaking in it. Is this something reflective of how everything goes on in your own mind? Or are you more of one of those people who has an internal monologue 100% of the time? Why did you choose to go for a film without words and speech?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I was always kind of fond of non-verbal works. I think if we look at most of the works I produce, they are quite non-verbal, and I like that for a couple of reasons. And first of all, it's because I just like personality-wise, I always prefer actions to words. So if to me it's like they say that an image speaks 1,000 words, and 100% agree with that fact.
Show, don't tell. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, this kind of the mindset. So, and it's always kind of like, I think that in the past, whenever I was trying to express myself verbally, I was always quite a reserved and quiet person. And one of the reasons, I think, is because whenever I was feeling some type of emotion, I wanted to communicate it. Whenever I had to deliver it verbally, it never feels quite right. It never kind of touches the essence of how I really feel. Whereas in contrast to images, I think that always was something that captured it so well without even having to speak a word. So that to me was basically why I feel like when it's non-verbal, it also kind of gives the interpretation to the viewer as well. So it also makes it quite interactive, because you have those kind of, there's a lot of gaps in the movie. I mean, there are some things I'm like, maybe I myself, I'm not sure why I made it this way consciously. And I think it's quite beautiful if the people can give a little bit of themselves into the movie because of those gaps and kind of complete it themselves. And yeah, so that's why I made it nonverbal.
That's really interesting. In a way, it's a more universal way to tell a story, or even an experience or a feeling. And also, I'm quite intrigued. What do you want to do next? Where do you see yourself in the future? What type of work would you like to produce?
So if we talk short term, right now, I think I really want to continue my learning journey in like studios and really get a feeling of how it is to to what's the work environment there, you know, how it is to learn about the structure of how a studio is working with people closely, and how do we make this thing work. So that's definitely the next steps. And if it's in long term, I would love to use the experience I've developed from working in those studios and hopefully create my own one where I can work with like a like-minded team. And I want to work with creating those kind of short films and inspirational movies about just kind of what's really important. I think there's a lot of, you know, kind of unnecessary hate still today in society, and like usually we tend to be quite afraid of like our differences, and whereas I feel like the differences is something that should be able to link us together. I think as animators and filmmakers and storytellers, I think that's our job to kind of be able to translate some stories and make it universal and simplify it to people, and kind of remind them of what it is to, you know, the complexity and kind of like the divergence of and the beauty, I guess, of human lives.
That's really interesting. I want to see what you make next. And thank you so much for joining us for this little short interview and this event to celebrate the end of this chapter. And now I'm gonna gladly pass it to Dylan, who's gonna be interviewing Cavell.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mariana and Nadine. So, hi, Cavell. Before we start talking, I'm going to just show another little clip to excite some peeps about your film. Just give me a second here. Okay. Let's show it. Beautiful. Okie dokie. Hello. So I'm just going to get a little thing in the background, but for us to be playing at the same time. This is a clunky system and it's not perfect. Here we go. Lovely. So, hi. So love the film. Hilarious comedic timing. Like, I think you've got that nailed down pretty well. So and it has a lot of these kind of quite morbid moments, as we can see playing out across the screen, but then it does turn around at the end, and there is like quite a big moment for that character. So I wanted to ask, what is the intended message or morality of your film?
The thing is about the film in particular, I kind of wanted to leave it open-ended, so it can appeal to an audience where you would just see it, laugh at it, and enjoy it. But then there's that extra bit to, you know, explore for those who want to dig deeper for anything that might be underneath the surface. I mean, I have thought about like messages in general, and given that I've shown a few people the film, they have given me their interpretations. But I think the easiest to understand would be a slight nod to cancellation culture, because during the last segment, it does change and like now get quite surreal and kind of dark. And some would say it's guilt, others would say it's, you know, the sins crawling on my character Orion's back, or just the people uprising against him for laughing at all of these others' misfortunes. But I just feel that there's such a it's like it is a culture of writing people off before you get to know the real facts behind it. I wanted to leave the main background behind why he laughs out, just to see how the public would react to it. And the truth is that the character himself suffers from alexithymia, which is a subset of depression, wherein a person will be more likely to act erratically in situations where you probably wouldn't. So, say for instance, during maybe slightly sad occurrences, you'll be bursting out into tears, and on another occasion, you will burst out into laughter at things that aren't really that funny. And yeah, I wanted to show that the world that he belongs to just doesn't ask these questions at all. They see one thing and they judge him already, thinking that he's a demon child, instead of, getting to know why he's laughing and, try to help him through it, because he himself doesn't actually like to laugh at these things. I'm not saying to sympathize. You can sympathize with him if you want, but the fact of the matter is he is laughing at the socially unacceptable, hence the video title. But yeah.
It's definitely an area worth exploring. It's always sort of in the area of like neurodiversity and just understanding everyone's reactions are always different to what we maybe would expect, and so it's a good film for that. So you probably went through a lot of, I know, stages in this, in the making of this film, in the sort of ideas process. Which stage of animation process excites you the most?
Sorry. It would probably be that ending part, to be precise, because, towards the end of the film, I was making good time with it, but my tutor, Daniel, said, maybe try to find a way to get the whole film done in a day, and really change the style that you've been going with throughout the film, just to make it more of a contrast, to make it jump out. So I was like, okay, cool. And it was through that I was able to mix the media. Usually I just do 2D animation alone, but now that I had that opportunity to find, shortcuts, I was able to find ways of layering the animation on top of compositing and like a live background that I wouldn't really have thought of. And seeing that all come together made me feel a lot better about my abilities, and it opened a new door for me.
So would you say you work better, on your toes? Do you think you get bogged down in like traditional methods, and then if you're coming up with something new, you can kind of work with that?
I would say yes and no, because I would see myself as quite adaptable. Like if I have to think on my toes, I will. But if I have the time to think and ponder and find new ideas, then I will. So I think it is a little bit of both. Sometimes the quick thinking boxes in my thinking. So I'm not able to, think outside the box, as it were. But in this respect, it did help, I believe.
That's great. So this somewhat is related to our next question. I wanted to know, if you had to make this film again, how would the whole thing? How would you do it differently?
I think having shown the film to other people, they have given me mixed opinions about the ending. So I would probably change the ending to maybe something a bit more easier to understand, instead of open in the air and such. And also in terms of quality as well, because only recently I realized that trying to clean up line art with the brush makes the lines look very inconsistent with the thickness wavering and such. And I found that I was like, okay, so what am I supposed to use? And it was only through trying to apply for an animation job with Psych2Go. Do you know it? Okay, it's basically a channel that helps promote mental, learning about mental illness and awareness about that stuff, sort of thing, through very cute characters and simple animation. And that was what one of the managers told me, like, yeah, your line art is not, it's very inconsistent. So I looked up a tutorial, and it was through that I realized that the pencil tool makes everything look a lot cleaner.
Oh, we
So
love the
I'll start
pencil
doing
tool.
that now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so many different ways to animate, and that's a good lesson to learn, definitely. This early. So more about the future. Would you be looking to work freelance or studio? Do you want to be on your own or in a team? Are there anything you want viewers to know about you and where you're going in the future?
I mean, one, I know I have a lot to learn, and I would like to explore the freedom of not having to do certain projects to be marked. So I have a lot of ideas in my head and things that I put into motion outside of school that I would like to add to my portfolio, try out things and such, and just explore, make more mistakes without feeling like, oh no, this is going to affect my grade, so let's not do that before going into the working environment. So it's a little bit of both, but freelance first, probably.
I like that. That's a good attitude. Wonderful. So if you have any shout outs, anything to say, plug, whatever, before we let you go, now's your time.
Not really.
I mean, what's your Instagram or something like?
Oh, I mean, I haven't made Instagram for just my animation, like entirely
Sorry,
yet.
that was my
assumption.
Like they teach us to do that sometimes.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my god, where's your Instagram? Well, that's fine. You can check out Cavell's profile on the UAL Graduation Showcase website. Thank you for the lovely answers, Cavell, and for the great animation. And thank you. See ya. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing now. And next we have Alize Sotelo, who will be interviewing Georgia and Thomas.
Thank you, Dylan. That was great. So just before starting with the interview with Georgia and Thomas, let's watch like a little clip of their animation. That's great. So, Georgia and Thomas, if you want to turn on your cameras. Yes. Beautiful. How are you guys?
Hi, I'm all right. Yeah, how are you?
Good.
Excited? Okay, so my first question, I think it's quite obvious, is about the film is set in this very beautiful post-apocalyptic setting and explores this relationship between two individuals who seem to have been left behind, maybe. So, where does this idea come from, and is it inspired at any extent by the pandemic situation that we've been living?
I think the pandemic definitely plays into it, but I feel generally in like post-apocalyptic fiction, there's a real trend towards like a very conservative idea of how like society is the only thing stopping people from like turning on each other and just being like a lawless wasteland. And I think we kind of wanted to show that like those scenarios is where people really come together and sort of make a new way of life, I suppose.
Yeah, I think those were themes that we were definitely interested in before the pandemic, and it is interesting to think like I wonder how that would have manifested if we hadn't been in that situation. But yeah, I think it probably did really affect like the tone, and also maybe we had a post-apocalyptic like plague mentality, anxiety driving us a little bit as well.
Really nice, because another thing you can notice is like how your protagonists are these two very charismatic characters, like a robot and a vampire. Why them, and what is the relationship between them? I'm really intrigued.
We were interested in this idea of like abandoned malls as like these kind of 21st century gothic environments, similar to how like the decay of like the aristocratic castles in Dracula, for instance, like the kind of romantic or late Victorian gothic, and it's always this classic fear of like just this horror of kind of the failed powers of the past. And yeah, and so vampires are kind of have historically always been a symbol of that. And then I think we were trying to really
Robots
lean
are cool.
into like, yeah, robots are cool. There we go.
Look, I'm just gonna say it because everyone's too scared to face up to it.
That's a really good answer too.
Yeah, we were trying to like follow this feeling of like idiosyncrasy the whole time. And we liked how mismatched the pairing was for these two very unlikely friends. One kind of like a symbol of the past, and one of like a future, I guess you could say.
Very nice. So, which part of the animation process did you enjoy the most? Like, especially within this challenging year, I guess like collaboration hasn't been easy at all. But do you have any highlights, moment that you were like, oh yeah, this is working, this is coming together? Or was more like kind of a dramatic journey till the end of the film?
I think it was fairly smooth, like from the most part, just because I think we were lucky that we kind of trust each other, and we know what we both knew very much like where we were with it, and we could like communicate pretty well about that kind of thing and what we had to do. But it was definitely challenging towards the end, especially editing it and doing the composite. We didn't have any access to, like, usually we do those parts with the uni resources on campus. So we ran into a few hurdles because we both kind of like After Effects was like failing on both of our computers at home. So we had to do some like hijinks with like doing weird compositing stuff and TV paint and things.
I used Procreate's weird new limited animation suite and trying to make that work in a composite and really just exporting it in a way that worked and didn't break in some weird way was interesting. And yeah, the catharsis after getting it done was just real strong because it helps not having to just be at a desk all the time while you work on a film.
And being like two of you, how did you divide the work? Was it like, is there a lead animator in the team? Are you both working in every single stage? How did you decided to divide this?
We really split a lot of the responsibilities like evenly. Like Georgia did character designs, I did storyboards, but other than that, I think a lot of the film was like very collaborative and like I think it was better off for it. Especially with a film as long as this. I don't know if we would have been able to pull it off if only one of us was doing key animation and one person on backgrounds.
And I have a question because I read in your online portfolio in the showcase that you guys have this Day Trippers is a London-based comic and animation collective you guys created. What inspired this collaboration? Did it start with the making of this film, or is it something from earlier, from before that was already coming together? Can you tell us about the project and if this is part of your future plans?
Yeah, it's new. Yeah, it was kickstarted by working together on this, and we've got some ideas that may or may not involve more robots. We'll see.
True. Yeah, we've worked together quite a few times at this point, and we pretty much get what to do, I think, as a team. But yeah, as for the future, I mean, who knows? Need to figure out what I'm doing right now, even.
Yeah, of course. So it was lovely talking to you guys. I really enjoyed like having this little conversation about the film. If there's anything else you would like to say, anything else that you think the audience should know about you, this is the moment.
Yeah, go on.
The film's great. You should watch it. Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun to make, and I hope everyone enjoys watching it on loop as it plays in the background. Yeah.
Yeah, you can find us. Oh wait, actually no, we don't have social media for our collective yet.
People should follow us on regular social media.
Yeah.
I'm at Barely Shiny on most accounts.
Yeah, I'm GE Villain. I'll type it into the chat on Instagram.
We'll figure something out.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks again for having us. It's been good.
Thank you guys for taking part in this
See
Q&A.
ya. Enjoy the rest of the films, everyone.
Yeah, see you.
Bye, thank you. And now we have Mary, and Dylan is going to be interviewing her.
Thank you so much, Alize, and thank you guys for a beautiful film. I really only just had the highlights there, so there's more to see. Check it out on the Graduate Showcase. So, hey Mary, I'm just going to play a little intro clip of your film before we chat. So here we are. Beautiful. And I just have, you know how it goes. I've just got the loop ready. Here we are. So this is Mary Bayati. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Wonderful. Loving it. Loving all the animation energy today. So yeah, I've got a few questions here about your film. I wanted to ask, just considering this year we've had and how we've all kind of had to be quite adaptable, fluid, etc. Were there any moments where dealing with this year that you've had to adapt your project from its original conception?
Oh yeah, like so many, so many
Yeah.
times. Because when the pandemic happened and we all went into lockdown, I didn't actually have access to a proper software. So for quite a lot of it, I had to like work around how and when I'd start to animate and what techniques I'd use. And I've ended up using like Tuned in Harmony. I managed to get that on my laptop, but working remotely was actually quite difficult. And I had to shorten a lot of the concepts of the film because of it. But,
yeah, I mean, and did you then sort of replace that with anything, or is it just sort of on the back burner?
I think it's a bit on the back burner at the moment until I can like fully get into it.
No, completely. You know how that is.
Yeah.
So you've been able to create something really beautiful here, and something I really love about it, as we could hear in the intro, was the sound. I was interested, like, did you create the sound, and also what kind of sound, what do you feel like sound has as a role in your film?
I did make the sounds. It was a bit tricky, but I managed to get something good in the end. And I feel like it has like a massive influence on the film itself. Sorry, it's a bit windy, but I feel like it has a massive influence because part of the story that I couldn't tell visually is told through the sound. So
yeah, absolutely.
I think it plays like a massive role.
Did you get any inspiration? Was there any source material that you pulled from for this?
I think it was from the time when I started binging Star Trek. I think that has like a massive influence, especially the original series, because of how vibrant the colors were in that series and how wacky the designs were for characters. And yeah, I just really wanted to give it a nice nostalgic kind of retro feel.
Amazing. So what was your process in making I know you've already mentioned kind of which software, but how did you go, because you've got a lot of composited effects in the background with some like nice line art in the foreground with lots of different textures. Can you give us a sneak peek?
I actually ended up going onto the campus to make the composited backgrounds, and I had to help with one of our mentors, Dan. He helped me set up, and I basically poured so many different types of materials into a massive plastic box, and I panned across. I made things move, and yeah, like I really just wanted to experiment and see where it would take me.
That's amazing. Yeah, we love a test, we love experimenting, and we love analog here at LCC. This I mean, what's showing right now, this sort of texture, what is that? Because I could tell this other stuff's paint.
That's a mixture of black and blue ink, tinfoil, and a hell of a lot of glitter and baby powder, just to keep the glitter afloat.
Yeah. Classic art tools in anybody's arsenal that they should have. I love it.
Yeah.
Great. So on to our last question. We've been asking a lot of people, do you have any plans for the future? What do people need to know about you? How do you feel?
Any plans for the future? I'm not sure really. I suppose it will come and go as it pleases. But I do hope to find like a job in the studio at some point. But I don't yeah, like I'm really ready for anything, I think.
Yeah. So you think you'd want to go for studio work like 2D?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I've missed drawing so much.
Did you say like compositing sort of did you have to learn a lot about compositing for this project, and that would be maybe an area you in, or
Yeah, I
like
think.
just classic animation?
Oh yeah, no, like I think I'll definitely have to expand on compositing a lot. I did learn quite a lot through this project, so it'd be really fun to kind of expand that. But, yeah.
Amazing. Well, great. Okay. Any last things that you want to say to the peeps?
Sup peeps? I have an Instagram. It's tiny_wineyart. So yeah.
Amazing.
You can find
And
my
you could
work
probably
on there.
find that on the Graduate Showcase platform if it's been linked, as I'm sure you have. Okay. Thank you so much, Mary.
Thanks.
Hope you have a nice time at CSM. You don't get sprayed by any fountains behind you.
Hopefully not.
Watch
Thanks.
out. They'll get you. Okay. Thank you, Mary. Bye.
Bye.
Beautiful. So I'll pass to Mariana, who's...
Hi, thank you, Dylan. Now we have Leonie, who is unfortunately traveling, but we will still show a clip of her video, and we have pre-recorded an interview with her to show with you now, in the case that her sound wasn't very good, which happened to be the case, unfortunately.
Az álmaink világa mindig is elbűvölt engem, de ugyanakkor mégis találtam valami ijesztőt benne. Emlékszem, amikor kölyök voltam, mint ugye sok gyerek, nem szerettem menni aludni, és az én helyzetemben szerintem azért volt, mert hogy féltem egyszerűen a sötéttől. És amikor ugye becsuktam a szememet, akkor hirtelen minden sötét lett, és nem volt semmi fény. És emlékszem, hogy amikor a lámpát kellett kikapcsolni, akkor utána meg féltem kinyitni a szememet, mert hogy tudtam, hogy minden sötét lesz. És ebbe a helyzetbe az álmok úgy hatottak rám, mint hogyha így megmentettek volna ettől a félelemtől, a sötéttől is. És egy kicsit úgy éreztem, mint hogyha ugye még egyszer tudtam volna látni, és klassz helyekre menni.
So I'm just getting up the other clip.
Thank you, Dylan. And now the interview.
It's going to be a bit of a compositing fun time. One sec. I just got to open them in different programs.
She will still be available to answer any questions at the end for the audience Q&A. So feel free to drop them in the Q&A section at the bottom as we go. We'll pull them all out at the end and go through them.
Absolutely. I'll share it before it's even ready, just to show you what's going on here. So we've got this, and then
yeah, just show Leonie. That's the most important.
Okay, wait one sec.
Last but definitely not least, we have Leonie Dubois, who's going to talk to us about her film and about the making of her film, and in general her art practice. Leonie, do you want to introduce yourself and say a bit about you and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, my name's Leonie. I'm 21. I just graduated, and my film's called Sleeping Time. And it's basically, I just asked 4 people to give me a story of one of their dreams, or just related to dreams in general. So we have on first Nadine, who's just talking about how they were scared of the dark when they were a child and how dreams help them. in some way, which is a good introduction to the rest of the film. That is um, then Karina, who's talking about their childhood dream that was very recurrent. Then we got Jack, who's got this very vivid dream he made that one time that he just doesn't even know if it was reality or if it was an actual dream. And then finally, we've got Yahim very sleepy in that recording when he's just talking about the very, very weird dream he had. And again, that was pretty vivid and quite weird in some sense. The film is mostly 2D digital that I've done by myself, some 3D backgrounds made by my flatmate. And yeah, I'm mostly working mixed media. I love to just mix things together and have some sort of hybrid kind of sense to it.
That's great. And so how did you come across this theme? Is it something that you usually think about a lot? How did it come to you?
Well, so I think, yeah, I love to work with sound as a base from animation. I've done this for my second year project as well. Yeah, I just love to have recordings instead of music, I guess, in some way. Like, I'd love to illustrate podcasts, for example. I just think there's like a very nice thing about because you can do it in so many ways. You can just do it very abstract and make it very weird, and it can be like something different. You can have like the sound and the illustrations being something completely different, or you can just do it more literally and just illustrate what they're trying to say with like some sort of poetry. I think there's just some a nice feeling to it.
Yeah, especially if you're talking about podcasts where you might not even know visually what the people look like that you're listening to. I mean, in this case, I'm guessing that you did know everyone, that they are friends and colleagues, but what's the difference? What was your thinking behind this?
Well, yeah, I think obviously, yeah. For this one, the character design was pretty easy because I knew everyone, so I just felt like drawing them as I would see them in my style. And then yeah, I feel like for this film, I mostly did it literally. I think at first, the beginning of my idea was mostly to do something more about having a conversation with like the language barrier because well, we can't understand each other unless we speak the same language or if we know multiple languages. I have that problem myself. When I speak French, I just weirdly assume that people are going to understand me when it's not the case. So I kind of wanted to show that as well, that like the language doesn't have to be a barrier, and illustration can help understanding what the person is talking about without really understanding what they're saying. And it has, again, some sort of poetry, just listening to a language without really understanding what it says.
Yeah, I really like that. That definitely does come across in your film. I was also wondering because the theme is about dreams, which is very much your subconscious. And I know for a fact that some of your subjects speak multiple languages, of course, at least their native language, which they're speaking in the film, and then English. And speaking multiple languages myself, I know that then you might dream in different languages, or there might not be a language at all. Why did you choose to ask them to give you these sorts of testimonies in their native languages rather than all in English?
Well, I think it's just I feel like as well like native languages or just like another language that you can speak that's not English shows like culture and identity to it. I feel like Nadine speaks Hungarian, Serena speaks Spanish, Jack speaks Mandarin, and then Yahin speaks Czech, and I feel like it's part of their identity, and it's also like I kind of wanted them to have that as well, I guess, for themselves. Speaking in their native language. So I feel like even like for French for myself, I feel like when I'm speaking French, I guess I have a different personality than when I'm speaking English, and it's maybe we don't really know which version of yourself is the best one, but I feel more like I have some deeper feelings towards my personality when I'm speaking French than when I'm speaking English. I guess that's why I wanted to explore that with other people as well.
Definitely. And also in terms of style, I want to know more about everything that went on behind the scenes and the making of your film, because it seemed quite literally that you were listening and you kept creating and you saw what came up out of interpreting all of this documentary footage, documentary recordings. Um, what were you thinking about? What kind of happened meanwhile during the development of the project?
Well, so actually, so yeah, as well. Like I learned, I wasn't gonna know what my film was gonna be about until I got the recording. So it was pretty weird, like that in between before I got the recording. It was like this is gonna talk about dreams, and this is gonna be around 4 minutes long, but that's gonna it. And then yeah, having to know, and then I got Nadine first. And then, yeah, I felt like, oh, so this is going to be interesting if everyone gives me something like that. But then it ended up being the three others giving me a dream that they had. So then I felt like it was very interesting to just, see the recordings and then having to think, oh, how am I going to illustrate that? Like, am I going to do, like the first ideas that I had were actually to mix it all together, feel like a very, very long shot without cuts, kind of. But then obviously between the time that I had and the fact that I was going to be on my own on this, I just felt like maybe production-wise it would be doable to do that at least in like a month and a half. Um, so yeah, I went for something a bit more, I guess, just have separate stories so then we understand a bit better as well what's going on. Because as well, the fact that they speak another language, you have to have some sort of something to grasp to get the story. And I didn't want people to see, what did I just watch? So yeah, I think that's why I went through. I guess some idea-wise, having
And
something that's maybe
what did you give them as guidelines? Because you must have said something when you first presented the project to them.
Yeah, I literally just said, record yourself for 1 minute talking about dreams.
Okay.
That's it. So that's why it was like, I guess, the fact that they didn't have much direction to begin with. It could have gone anyway. But yeah, as well, like I had like some thrills and was excited to like getting the recording to be like, this is gonna be my film, whatever they're gonna say. So yeah, I love doing that.
And I'm sure that similarly with the restraints that we all had this year, a lot of things maybe changed about what you thought your final film would be. How did it influence you? Like, what were unexpected but kind of nice outcomes that came out of having to deal with it all?
Well, obviously, I stayed in London the whole time, so I was a lot. I guess I had a lot of time with myself. Obviously, I had my flatmates, but it's like I have my room to myself, and I had way more time to think about the film. I guess in some ways, because when you're going somewhere or you're doing stuff at the same time, then you don't have as much time. Yeah, like just thinking.
A lot more time for dreaming.
I think I did. Sorry?
A lot more time for dreaming, daydreaming.
But yeah, like I think what I didn't expect was to procrastinate for like a while. But then once I think, it was just the whole procrastination thing was just like, I'm not going to be able to do it because then I'm someone that's very anxious. And I was just thinking I have such little time and I have to do all of this and I don't really know what it's going to look like and I still don't really know. And I think, I always had that kind of problem when it's like between the thinking about it and the actual making it. It's just like, it's this whole space that I'm not really comfortable with. So once I found my workspace, I ended up putting myself on schedule. Yeah, it was one of the best experiences, honestly, because I was myself. I was my own director. I could do whatever I wanted. And and I guess, I had like to find some sort of stimulation outside of just my own room. It was harder to be creative, but then, I think I ended up going for something that was maybe a bit easier to make. So then I would be able to do it on time and do it by myself.
Yeah, having manageable goals and also having to deal with periods of inactivity, which aren't necessarily bad because they also kind of contribute to the end product.
I think sometimes having that time to then change your mind about things and think things over might like get you to a different outcome, which might be a lot more interesting and perhaps different, but maybe that's cool. What, as a final question, because I am a bit aware of time, what are your dreams and goals for the future? Where do you see yourself in the animation industry? You can tell me near future, like further away future, whatever you prefer. I'll leave that up to you.
On brand, you know, my dreams for the future. Well,
Unintended.
right now when I'm thinking about it, it's quite scary. I'm not gonna lie. It's just like it's just this clock ticking that it's like you need to find a job and you kind of have to pay back your loan and your tuition fee. But honestly, wherever life takes me, I'm open to like most things. I think my best goal would be to be working in the studio, I guess, as like a director or like production management or pre-production management. But I've been thinking about freelance as well because it seems like quite like in between thing for me, maybe to just like try and find a bit more what I want to do, really what I'm excited about, and maybe find something that I haven't even thought about it yet. But yeah, ideally, you know, a studio, like a nice little paid job that's full time, and that makes me want to do my own films and yeah.
Oh, very nice. Last but definitely not least.
Thank you, Dylan. So that was Leonie, and now I'm going to pass on to Alize for the last interview with Karina and Joachim.
Thank you, Mariana. That was lovely. So just before the interview, we are going to watch a little teaser they made for the film. Beautiful. So hello, Karina, hello, Joachim, and Puppet that you have there with you today. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, so my first question is a bit existential. So whether it is a stop motion film that embraces the constraints and the challenges you've been facing this year and has a big focus on time and social environment. So my question would be, how do you think the pandemic affected or impacted this film? And where does the story come from? Why did you decide to go for this story?
Yeah, so we wouldn't have made this film in normal circumstances, but it's not necessarily about the pandemic. We just used our restrictions to the best of our abilities, and we used our current environment, which was our flat that you can see in the film. And through that, we decided to create this life-size puppet and physically use the spaces that we had rather than create sets. And yeah.
Yeah, and also we somehow wanted to create the whole film all together. So we brought our own themes that we were interested in, and then based around our immediate surroundings, we somehow decided and created this story on a go. So we basically we literally created every single every single detail together. So it was a joint sort of effort.
Kind of a symbiosis there. So stop motion is a common medium in your collaborations. We're having the challenges of doing it in such a big scale. And can you tell us about the process of creating this puppet and working with it?
So we've been working with stop motion before, but obviously a life-size puppet is quite a challenge, and we didn't know how we're gonna do it. So we basically had to test things, and that we spent a lot of time just testing. With testing, and basically we broke the puppet so many times before we actually ended up making it the way it is. Because yeah, we had to basically create the rig from the scratch, because we tried the approaches that are usually used for the small scale puppets, but it didn't work on this like big scale. So yeah, it's been a big challenge to kind of find the right compromise and learn from the previous mistakes. So yeah, it's been quite a challenge, but it's been working so far. It's still alive.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, every time it broke, we made it better. So ultimately, it was for the best.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have a mainly fully functioning rig, which we're quite proud of. But yeah, and just the whole process of animating such a big puppet has been really interesting. Yes.
Yeah.
Can you maybe tell us about the materials you used to build this puppet? Because it looks kind of like very well crafted.
Yeah. It's made up of joints that are acrylic and with attached from like wooden balls on a stick.
Yeah. So this is the hand.
Yeah, and this is the joint.
Yeah.
But you can remove it, you can tighten it. So anytime you make a movement and you want it to stay there, you just tighten it.
Yeah.
And this is how we were able to transport it everywhere and animate it as well.
Yeah. So it's a really light wood, and yeah, we laser cutted the acrylic joints, and the rest is mostly papier-mâché.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, wires and different light materials, but it's mostly just wood and acrylics.
Nice. So you kind of adapted the character to be able to travel with you, because a big part of this project has been filmed outside in direct contact with London and its citizens. So what about that experience? What unexpected situations did you encounter? Do you have any anecdotes to share? And do any of the situations reflect in the film?
Yeah, a lot. We encountered a lot during the process. Some of it being just London weather. We had to shoot in all kinds of conditions and in all times of day. We shot at 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. In the storms and sun. And yeah, we encountered a lot of different people as well, and we use that in the film actually. We have a live action shot where we just shoot the people of London and we use their reactions as part of the film. And yeah.
Yeah. And also, since it was just two of us filming the whole thing, when we filmed the scenes in the flat, it was quite conventional sort of way to film it. We had like proper lens-based camera with a computer with a software and everything, so we could like kind of like manipulate with the animation more, in the enhanced, in a professional way.
Mm-hmm.
But when we were filming outside, it's been slightly or definitely more difficult. It was just two of us, and one of us was always just there in charge of the camera, and the other one was just in charge of the puppet. And sometimes we filmed like 200 meters apart, just with like headphones, and we just like call each other on yeah.
Yes.
And
So
that was the way how we communicated, and just one of us could basically see the actual result of the animation. The other one had to basically just be led by the other person and the instructions. So it's been quite challenging to just communicate this way.
Yeah, definitely.
That's really interesting. Did you encounter any problem with the people on the street? Like, if you face any kind of conflict at some point because you were maybe shooting in a place you shouldn't, or did actually people interact with the puppet?
Yeah. Well, we didn't. To be fair, to be 100% frank, we didn't get any like permissions to shoot anywhere. So we just basically got on a bus and started filming, and we just hope that nobody's gonna, I don't know, attack us or kick us from anywhere. But we got kicked out of a church once. But other than that, everyone has been quite lovely.
Yeah.
To be fair.
I mean, nothing too crazy. Just people approaching us and asking us what it actually is, because I mean, the puppet is quite scary. Lots of people have just said that they're scared of it, and we just kind of apologize. Or it's the exact opposite reaction where they're like, "Wow, can I take a picture? This is so lovely." So it's like quite a social experiment as well.
Yeah.
Just seeing how the people react to.
People are usually laughing, to be fair. I think they're quite used to weird stuff, especially in London. So I think,
or they just don't even realize, and they're just like, just keep on walking. So it's interesting.
But it's quite funny because we somehow can even manipulate that and include that in the film. Because, for example, there's, as we mentioned, there's this scene where we somehow want the public not to look at the puppet and not to engage with the puppet in any way, and that actually worked really well. When the puppet is basically in this like really distressing position, but like all the pedestrians are literally just passing by and not noticing the puppet at all. So it's been quite a social experiment.
It's really nice to hear about the process and how you put everything together. I think it's a beautiful film. Now, just to finalize this little interview, I wanted to ask you, as a multidisciplinary visual artist, where do you see yourself in the future in the industry? And do you have any actual like upcoming projects?
That's a great question. Thank you. As we just graduated officially, I guess we have. We are planning on surviving and keep on living in London, which is quite difficult financially and in many different ways. But so we are basically on a path to find a paid job to provide for all the costs of
all the future projects that we're going to do.
But on the other hand, obviously, this is just the materialistic part of it. On the other hand, we have many projects we want to work on together, and not together alone or with different people, but together as well. So it's the mix of both.
Yes.
Great. So, well, here you have two very talented animators, like ready to work. Thank you very much, guys. It was lovely talking to you. This has been our last interview, and now just before finishing, we will open to audience Q&A. So please, if you have any questions, pop in the chat and just write some so we can answer them, and we can let this very talented group of students to answer about it. And Mariana will take over now.
Thank you. Just waiting for any questions. Now's the time.
And if not now, you can always message these guys through their profiles. We've got a hi from Cheryl. Hi, Cheryl. With a smiley face.
we'll give everyone a couple of minutes to formulate their questions.
We have a Susie's here. Hi, Susie.
Hi, Susie.
Susie says, great to see the work, such incredible achievements, especially working through the pandemic. Thank you, Susie. I agree.
Thank you.
Couldn't agree with it.
Also, if you want to send support messages to the graduate students, that's also the time.
Or support job opportunities, those are always welcome as
Do you
well.
have a question from Cheryl, actually? Do you want to read it out, Marianne?
Yes, I shall. So Cheryl asks, I was wondering what kind of medium do you use often? Do you use mixed media like stop motion, CGI, and 2D animation? I am guessing, I mean, I don't know if Cheryl wants to clarify who this question is for, but we can also go through all of the participants and they can answer it individually. Perhaps should we start with Nadine first, if you want to.
Hi, sorry.
Hi. The question was, what kind of medium do you use most of the time? Mixed media like stop motion, CGI, and or 2D animation?
I'm very 2D based, and especially digital, but I also like to work analog as well, just a traditional way of doing, and also having a bit of mixed media as well, with After Effects compositing or getting some organic touches, like for example with a mixture of like live footages and just like live scans and stuff like that. So it's, and stop motion as well is something that interests me. I have only used it during the first year and a little bit in the second year, but it's definitely something I wish I could have worked up a little bit more on. So yeah.
There's always time.
Yeah.
And well, if you want to also tell us a bit more about what medium you prefer to work in.
Sorry, was that for me?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Truth be told, I'm a 2D freak. I love working in 2D. I love the sketchy aesthetic and such. But I do have an appreciation for other mediums, especially as I explained how I transformed the end of my film. I like the feel of turning a 2D animation into something a bit more smooth with After Effects using keyframing and masking. Yeah, I didn't think I'd like that, but it's really cool.
Lovely. So cross program type of animation. And I think next we had Georgia and Tommy. If you're still around, yes.
Yeah, I'm also just the 2D digital animator. Yeah, I think I just like the process of doing it so much. Even though
George, I think
like
you're cutting off.
Other people do mixed media and like stop motion and stuff. I think I'm just drawn to actually produce myself. Oh, it's my Wi-Fi. A bit unpredictable.
I think what you
still cutting
said
out
was mixed media, stop motion, a bit of everything, if I'm not wrong. Correct.
Oh, no. I said I'm pretty firmly just like 2D animation, but I like all the other stuff a lot when other people do it.
Okay, lovely. And Tommy. Your sound might be super low, or maybe it is just me, but I can't hear you.
Yeah, I can't hear you either, Thomas. Sorry. Oh, can he hear us?
I'm not sure. Can you hear us?
Thomas. We run out of battery. Oh, thanks, Nadine.
Okay, anyone good at lip reading? Not lip sync.
Maybe if not, you can pop up your answer in the group chat, in the chat, so everyone can read it.
That would be a great idea. Thank you, Alex. And then we should then pass on to Mary if she is still going.
She's gone. She's lost.
She's gone, and Leonie unfortunately is also gone. So Karina and Joachim, if you have any thoughts.
We do a bit of everything. This film was mainly stop motion, but we do 3D and 2D as well.
Yeah, it really depends on the project, because I think both of us we approach animation not as, you know, through the actual technique, but we just, you know, like to convey a story or visual, and then subsequently choose the most interesting or most an interesting way to actually do it, because with this film, like, we try to like invent our new approach to filming as well, and I think that's what's beautiful about animation, that can constantly create new approaches to the media.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Thank you. The next question would be from Frankie, who's asking, what advice would you give for finding a job within animation now that we have finished uni? I don't know if anyone wants to volunteer who has a lot of knowledge in this field and has done a lot of work on the side.
I mean, we can say from our experiences at uni, now we finished uni, a lot of what we were taught was just that it is all about your own individual journey and like where you want to go. So if you're looking to be in a studio, you need to look at what locally, like what software they use and what they're looking for, which area of the studio do you want to work in. You've got to figure out a lot, I think, to answer that sort of question. I noticed, Dan, you've opened up your webcam. Do you have anything to say?
I was just going to say we are doing Stuart's organised an event about exactly this tomorrow at 12 noon tomorrow. So there's Duncan Gaiman, who's an executive producer at Partisan, who's going to be answering all your questions about how to get your foot in the door in the industry. So you'll have an email from Stuart. Shall I type it? I'll type it in the chat as well.
Yeah, good plan. If you're on that, Dan, that'd be great.
Yeah,
I just sent one out to everybody. So yeah, it's a follow up, and it'll be he'll be able to talk about that kind of thing. I think it's just while I'm quickly speaking, I want to just congratulate everybody actually so far. I know we're still going, but I just thought it's just been really well put together by everybody, run by Elise and Dylan and Mariana, but really interesting student responses to the questions, and it's just really impressive actually to see how you're engaged with it all. So I'm enjoying it. Just say it's not a question.
Good to know. And for anyone,
we're very glad.
These are the fantastic teachers we have at LCCBA Animation, and Stuart is the course leader. These aren't just some random dudes.
Random, yeah, we didn't do any formal announcements, did we?
We did.
Random geezer, another random geezer down there. Well, on my screen anyway. Who knows where we are? Shall I hand you all back? I'm going to stop barging in.
No problem. That was. So now we have Alex with a question for the last group, which is Karina and Joachim. For the last group, what made you choose to get out through London during the pandemic for that project? Exactly, from a lockdown perspective, why did you choose to film outside?
So yeah, we chose the outside for quite obvious reasons, because we didn't want to be inside anymore. but obviously we had to shoot inside as well, quite a lot. So then it was quite quite dreadful being inside a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, for quite, yeah, because animation takes a while, and also like our film works with things like, you know, sunset and sunrises and things that are we can't really, we know that's gonna happen from like the, you know, natural point of view. So we actually had to be there and wait for it, and we couldn't really, you know, find an alternative to do those things. So
yeah. Also, I mean, since, yeah, basically what he said, but just to elaborate, it was so important for us, just mental health wise, to be outside and like have an excuse to just do things outside, was just really helpful. And for the story as well, I mean, obviously we created this story, but it was important to have the inside and outside elements in the film. So yeah.
And actually it's been quite helpful that like for the shooting, the whole pandemic, because for example we were shooting in central London, and those locations are extremely busy usually, and when we started filming, it was just some of the restrictions were already lifted, but it was still quite tough, quite tight. So we used the fact that it's been not as busy as London is usually.
Great, thank you. Another question from Alex, but now to everyone. So whoever wants to volunteer, just turn your camera on. Have you collaborated with other individuals in LCC, UAL, or even outside of school? If yes, did you find it beneficial to the project?
Before we jump into this answer, I did want to say I'm aware that we're at 5 o'clock, which is, I think, our allotted time for this. So I wanted to ask the technicians we have on call, do we need to like leave, or do we have a bit of wiggle room for these last questions? Maybe they're here. We can have 10 minutes.
10
okay,
minutes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Lovely. So yeah. Any individuals or even outside school?
Yeah, I can answer it. Yes, actually on the team for SWA there was also Nathan Campbell, who was the colorist of the animation, and without him, the project would just not be there. So, and also in terms of the sound, Alex Godot is the one who did everything. And we also had a little bit of help from Malachi as well. So I will post their Instagrams in the chat later on. But yeah, I think especially working during the pandemic and having, you know, a lot of alone time, group works were very beneficial, because it was kind of like a way to help each other to just support ourselves and make sure that the project is going along. So yeah, huge shout out to Nathan and Alex.
Thank you, Nadine. Anyone else? If not, we can also go to our last question, which is from an anonymous attendee saying, I always had a very high desire to animate in 2D, but I have the undying fear of it being too tedious for my own mind to handle, because I have always heard how it takes a lot of factors to animate more efficiently and a lot of patience. How can I not get stressed out and drop projects? Anyone with some good advice?
Can I answer this one?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay. The first thing I would say is just, I've learned that you just have to do it. It might seem like, oh, you know, like I've always heard this sort of thing, this doesn't help or whatever. But once you actually get into doing it and you feel the passion, feel the love for it, it gets a lot easier. And another thing is shortcuts. During this course, I realized that animators take a lot of shortcuts because animation does take a lot of time. So it's not a bad thing to try and make your life a little bit easier to get the outcome that you want to get. Some people do manage to make very moving and effective pieces by doing very minimal animation. So it's just figuring out how you want it to look, what you want, and what you're willing to, you know, compromise with to get what you want in the end, I think.
Thank you. That was a great reply. And Dylan, perhaps, I don't know, I think this is a good point to end our event.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess we all know how long a lot of creative endeavors can take, and it's just about like being patient with yourself and with your group. If you're working in a group, a good group helps, a good individual approach helps. Having a timeline, you know, I could go into it, but like you can find out if it's for you or not just by kind of trying out some simple things, seeing if you hate that. We start off with a lot of very simple exercises like the bouncy ball, the walk cycle, the turnaround, and you'll find out if you have the love for it if you just dip your toes in, I think, and see what happens. Alize, anything?
No, I think like everything I had to be saying has already been mentioned, and I think this was our last question, right? So we could finally finalize this very lovely Q&A session. Thank you very much to all the participants, and thank you very much for all the audience for coming and seeing us. This session has been recorded, so I believe that it will be uploaded somewhere where you can actually share it later on. Dylan, if you want to say the last word.
Well said. Thank you so much. It's been really, really fun. And I'm going to put my email in the chat just because why not?
Perhaps we should put the link to the grad show page for VA animation if anyone has that.
Oh, yeah.
At hand,
Yeah,
that would be very good. And you can
I'm sorry, I've also put the link to our BA animation showreel as well.
Great.
So it's in the chat.
Perfect. Thank you, Sulin.
Okay. And just actually, yeah, I just wanted to say as well, thank you to everyone that has hosted this event and also to all the people that have also participated in the interviews and to the students as well that haven't been able to come as well, that all the fantastic work and endeavors have really paid off. So we just want to wish you the best of luck for the future. And yeah, and please keep in touch. Thank you so much.
Good luck, everyone.
Well done, everyone.
Beautiful. Hopefully we'll get to see each other soon.
Great films and great discussion.
Yes.
Yeah, really good.
Well, thanks, Nadine. Thanks for sticking with us. I know it said about an hour and a half in when we were telling you how long this would be, but
it felt shorter.
Soup.
I just popped in the graduate showcase link, so if you want to go and check everyone's work, this is amazing. In there you can find some of the films, like the complete films of the students, so please go and also follow them on Instagram. And yeah, if there's any job out there, we have an amazing crew of new graduates.
Absolutely. All right, we'll let you go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to quit now.
Bye. See ya.
Thank you,
well done,
everyone.
Dylan, Mariana, Alize,
Well done.
brilliant.
Bye, guys.
See
Bye.
ya. Bye.